I'm watching BBC reruns of TV serials that have been broadcast over the past 20 or 30 years, or longer, in fact, since the 1970s, 60s. And that's where the programming takes place. I see this very clearly now. I think I've spoken about it before. We are enticed to pay our attention to the big screen and the movie stars. That's the serious acting, the one that is deserving of our attention. And the TV stuff is the fluff. Don't worry about it. It's just entertainment. And so it doesn't merit the scrutiny of philosophers, perhaps, or certainly intellectuals, you could say. And I think that's a deliberate deception, because the programming, the constant programming, and subtle also, and just repeated across every program, the nudging, progressive over the years, as we moved from, a more orderly and wholesome society into, or what seemed to be, I suppose. I don't know. I think it wasn't really more wholesome, was it? Because we're talking about the end of World War II. World War II. That hardly bears thinking about. And with all the winds of war that are blowing around us at the moment, it's a sobering thought to think that all it needs is for somebody in a certain position to declare war, to say the word war. It's a declaration. That's what it takes. This is all Masonic theatre. This is what I've begun to realize. These are just rituals that are played out, and perhaps sacrificing many lives in the process. I say perhaps because I'm skeptical about some of the claims of bloodshed in these horrible events. But I don't know that. I think there's a reluctance somehow. I think ritual human sacrifice is practiced, but perhaps with more restraint than cynically declared war might lead one to think. But all of this perpetrated through the most delightful, harmless little family dramas and dilemmas that we watch as ordinary people apparently live out their lives and gradually become more adventurous as the more permissive message is promoted, and then siege into postmodern craziness and brutality, like the brutalism in architecture. I don't know where we're up to at the moment. I suppose it'll be in line with the times. I hardly know what they are anymore. And another point that I wanted to make, a separate point, but related, I think, is that we are unwise to underestimate our enemy. I say that very often. And also, and this is something that has given me pause, and actually I'm sort of having a slight crisis of faith at the moment. I don't know how slight it is or how serious it is. I've been stopped in my tracks a little bit. Not really entirely, because I still, of course I believe. But the sobering thought is that the devils also believe. That's written in the Bible. And I don't think we give it enough, or I hadn't given it enough thought. But really, something that seems impossible to a believer is that the enemy would dare to challenge the one true God, because we know how it ends. People will often say that. But we have to remember that they read the same book and they interpret it differently. Okay? That's the problem. So it can be interpreted differently by a man or a woman who sets their mind to it, as might occur also in the truth movement. As occurs when I watch old reruns of BBC dramas. I interpret them differently to the way that they're intended, or to the way that they are overtly intended, differently from my peers. But I think I'm not alone at this time, but certainly, years and years ago, this would have been difficult to deconstruct. I don't think it was common. A few people were doing it, of course. But they interpret it differently. So they believe that Satan is God, and that Satan will ultimately triumph, and they are the ones that understand what's written in the Bible, and we are the ones that don't. We Christians. We are duped, and there's a plot twist that we haven't seen. That's a sobering thought. That's why they persist. They're not rushing off the edge of a cliff. They're heading in their imagination and in their calculation for glory. That's how it stands. So I don't know what it all means, and something like that, I suppose, I often revise my interpretation of the Bible through time and through reading, but I've never imagined that I might even have to contemplate the meaning to that level. But there are people who do that. It's sobering, isn't it, really? But Satan is a created being, so I don't think he can prevail, actually. But I don't know, I'm not a brilliant thinker or anything like that, or well versed in the Kabbalah and all this secret knowledge. I've always sort of avoided it as far as I can. Once I realized there were so many different branches to it, I couldn't follow them all, so I just stuck on the book. And I think, I would recommend that. I think it's so dangerous reading other material and getting drawn in to little backwaters. I mean, you can do it, but you have to swim out pretty quick. And this is what I'm finding also with the true Israelite understanding, which I do believe. I believe that the European nations are Israelites. The lost tribes, you could call us, and so all the new world, really. We're Israelites. That's our birthright. We are the progeny of Abraham. And that's been concealed because it's been tied up with all this white supremacy stuff. Now, I don't know exactly what it means. The only thing that I can see in the Bible is that we are the children of the promise. We have been selected by God, and the Bible is all about really the Israelites. But it's not about the Israelites, you would say, when you come to the book of the Acts. There we're told that the blessings are extended. And the Bible does seem to say that. And, I've read it many times, that the blessings are extended, but it's not quite clear. The church view, the popular view, to line up with the Gospels also, is that salvation is available for all. Now, I remember Bertrand, whatever the fellow's name is, I can't recall now, but he was an Israelite believer, and he pointed out that redemption cannot be for all. Redemption is exclusively Israelite, and that's true, of course, because you can't redeem something if you didn't have it in the first place. And certainly in the first place, it was it was of the Israelites. I am not called, but for the lost tribe of Israel. For the lost of Israel, I forget exactly the words. So it's kind of very exclusive. And then we get Acts, and there's this extension. But also in the Old Testament, I think it's in, is that in the Old Testament? I know it's linked up to Isaiah, when the Ethiopian eunuch is traveling, and he is inspired by the scripture, and he's baptized by, I always forget the name of that disciple. Was he a disciple? Yes, I suppose so. Stephen, perhaps. And so, there's that also. But I've discovered that many believers in America, in particular, of the true Israelite, don't actually believe that. And they believe that Paul, I'm reading between the lines here, but I think this is how it is, that Paul was preaching to nations that contained many intermingled Israelites. And he was essentially speaking to his brethren in those nations. I don't know. This is, to me, that was a shocking understanding. And of course, that is the white exclusionary doctrine. And you can see why it would be opposed by the world. I oppose it myself. I have only really ever formed relationships, friendships, since I've been in Britain, with people of different races. I find I can't relate to men of my own race. I haven't been able to find somebody that I can really connect with. I don't know what it is. It's possibly because of my, inflated ego. I think that's a strong possibility. But there's a lot of I guess pride and turning away, and I just don't know anybody. I don't know any Christians. And the few that I used to know, I just didn't like them because they were making a lot of works out of their devotion. You know, I don't like to hang out with people who won't have a beer or who won't, smoke a joint or, to me, that's, and who only think that you have to do stuff. You have to go and stand on a street and read from the Bible, you know, just make a nuisance of yourself. It's bad enough talking on the internet, isn't it? But that's neither here nor there. The important thing is, what is the Bible teaching? That's the essence. My friend in America said, well, he said, universalism is always creeping in. He hasn't explicitly said that he believes what I'm summarizing here. And I don't know whether he does, but I think there are people who do believe that. But at the same time, there are also people who don't understand that the earth is flat. To me, that's a big red flag. Biblical cosmology is so central to the re-establishment of the truth. We have to establish what is a level plane and what is a plumb line to form a right angle. That's the basis of truth, really, isn't it, in the sort of material world, and easily provable. You don't need complicated stuff. That has to be re-established. And so when it's not welcome, that for me, that's a red flag right there. So it could be that this group is in some way obstructing the spreading of the kingdom. It could be, that argument could be made, and it has cultish overtones. It's, the people obviously tend to be fairly insular, I suppose. I don't know exactly. I don't. It might seem that I'm slagging off a bunch of people for no reason at all, but those are the fears that have come to me. And it's not a group that I would ever join, but I don't join any group, So that's just the way that things are with me. And I think it's the way that things are with a lot of us these days. We just plod on alone, don't we? Anyway, God bless and have a wonderful Friday, is it?